Hey everybody, I'm Sunny Sidhu, and welcome back to our latest episode of Sclero What. Excited today to have Amy Shega with us here on the show. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Thanks for having me.
Now, Amy, tell us a little bit about yourself. I mean, you were diagnosed with scleroderma approximately 6 years ago?
Right about 6 years ago. And I had no idea that that's what I was kind of going to the doctor for. But I have Raynaud's, so just kind of bad circulation with the fingertips. And went to a rheumatologist, and she kind of kept looking at my fingertips and my lips. And on the drive home, I got a phone call. And she had told me then that I was diagnosed with scleroderma. So that was pretty life-changing for me, because I just remember the first question being like, is it curable? And the first word was like, no, it's not, but, and that's all I remember.
So what was that like for you when you first heard? I mean,
yeah,
you were diagnosed with scleroderma. What was, the first reactions? What was going through your head at that time?
That so one time in my life that was just kind of like a blur. When I just had heard that there was no like treatment or no way to cure it, I remember looking it up on my phone, like scleroderma, and of course the worst results pop up, right? So that was pretty scary, and my life kind of changed ever since then.
You mentioned that you're researching scleroderma on your phone as soon as you got the diagnosis. Mm-hmm. Probably never heard of the word before or heard of the diagnosis before until then, correct?
Right.
So how have you kind of scratched the surface and researched it more as you've gone along? I mean, you've done a lot of stuff pertaining to especially diet, where now you've gone virtually gluten-free and dairy-free in order to help you cope with living with scleroderma.
I think at the time it was just, I didn't know what it was, so I kind of just Googled it, and then from there I had already been gluten-free because I have celiac disease, and then I had been just going to different GI doctors to kind of get their thoughts on it, and started a low FODMAP diet. And that was kind of like the turning point for me with treating my like GI issues.
So FODMAP, I just learned about this today.
Yeah.
Explain it to me and explain it to those who might not know what it means.
Totally. I went to a GI doctor, like I told you. I went to several of them, and one finally believed me and had said, I think your issue is the foods that you're eating, and recommended me going on a FODMAP diet. And so I had the same reaction, like, what the heck is a FODMAP diet? But essentially what it does is it's kind of like an elimination diet to figure out what your trigger foods are. And for me at the time with scleroderma, I really struggled with acid reflux. And the FODMAP diet helps eliminate foods that are maybe more acid producing or like gas producing also.
So what kind of foods, as you found, should people kind of try to avoid to prevent some of the symptoms that you've talked about? Yeah. And also, please consult your doctor before going through this diet.
Totally, yeah. The diet's definitely not for everyone. However, if you do struggle with acid reflux, it's something to definitely ask your doctor about. Essentially, it's just cutting out maybe like tomatoes or onions or garlics, things that would essentially produce a lot of acid in your body. And that just helps reduce with like the acid reflux symptoms.
Now, your experiences by going gluten-free, dairy-free, it's grown into your own personal blog, which is getting quite famous, called the
Bloated Belly, yes. Kind of a funny name, but yes, I started Bloated Belly about a year ago. It was kind of funny, but it fell into my lap. So I had a couple friends and family members who had to go gluten-free, and they thought their life was ending, as did I when I first had to go gluten-free. I'm like, no pizza, no chicken wings. It kind of is a scary thing to do. So I was crafting all these personalized emails to them being like, there's some snacks you can have, here's some of my favorite recipes, just to make it a little bit less scary for them. And then I realized, I'm like, okay, this is like my 10th email this month, and I'm spending way too much time doing this. I had already been also taking photos of like every food that I was eating or meal. And I think my family and friends were getting sick of that, being like, we don't need to see everything you eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I decided to make my own account called Bloated Belly and just share the recipes, the foods, and products that I love and that I consume on a regular basis, just to kind of help share my knowledge of what's worked well for me.
Yeah, and I was checking out the blog earlier today, and I'll be honest with you, I was getting hungry.
Were you?
Oh yeah, it's pretty impressive. So,
yeah.
And how long have you been doing the blog now for?
The blog I've been doing for now just about a year.
And what kind of response have you been getting so far?
Better than I thought. I thought it was just going to be a very small account just to kind of share with like friends and family or people who had questions that I already knew in my life. But I have got a lot more followers than I expected, and it's cool to be able to partner with different companies that have products that I use on a regular basis. And I've met some really cool people too. So I've been able to meet a lot of people in the Scleroderma community, which has been awesome.
So, like you said, FODMAP, gluten-free, dairy-free. This is not just a vegetarian or vegan spin on things, is it?
No, it's not. Yeah. Always check with your doctor. It's not good to just like cut out huge food groups if you don't need to. But it's something to definitely think about before always trying different like medicines. I think that was something that I wish I would have done a little more research on prior to just like starting a medication to help with that. Because I do feel like diet really changed that, and I could have saved a lot of time and a lot of gut issues.
So how long have you been doing this new diet, the change in the diet? How many, has it been years? Has it been months?
It has been years, yep. So gluten-free I've been for about 10 years, dairy-free and FODMAP for about 6 years now.
And how have you found that that's affected some of your symptoms from the scleroderma?
It's so hard to say if it's correlated just because of the diet, but I can say that since I've changed my diet, I've no longer got ulcers. There's just been like not really any progression, and I'm very lucky in that sense. I just think with scleroderma, there's so much unknown that if I can at least just try to help my like progress with my diet, like why not? And so that's kind of why I've stuck with it, is just because it has been helping with my symptoms.
Now with the gluten-free side of things, there's a lot of skincare products, a lot of beauty products, hair care products, which apparently I'm in a lack of use for. But have you found that there's products out there that you've had to change to kind of accommodate for this, or is it pretty much, status quo for what you're normally doing?
I would say start with your food and then start working towards products. The reason I had to change products is, again, like what I put on my body is just as important as what I'm putting in my body. Going gluten-free is just such a lifestyle change that it's kind of hard to be like, hey, change your food and every product that you use, right? But a lot of hairsprays, a lot of different makeups have gluten in it, so it's just important to do your research.
So is it hard to find products that have that gluten-free aspect to them?
I mean, it is difficult. I would say it's getting easier now because companies are starting to realize that people do have celiac disease, that they have to be more careful with their ingredients. So they're doing a better job of labeling things, but it's definitely a lot more research than just going into Target and like grabbing any shampoo or conditioner or the cheapest shampoo or conditioner.
Reading a lot of labels, huh?
Lots of label reading for sure, yes.
So Amy, since you started your blog, have you found that you've started connecting more with other people in the autoimmune community?
I have, and that was not something that I originally kind of like planned on. I did meet Jess, and so I think you guys have had her on the show previously, but she was the first person that I connected with, and that kind of gave me the motivation to like open my community or my blog up to people who have more autoimmune diseases. There was so much anxiety that came with the diagnosis of scleroderma, which I'm sure you could probably relate to too. But after talking to her, like it just made me feel so much better and like not isolated. And so I'm like, if I can give that to somebody back, like that was like my biggest goal. So now, yes, I talk about eating gluten-free and dairy-free and following the FODMAP diet, but really it's like to help people understand that they're not alone and that the diagnosis isn't as scary as maybe you initially would think. A lot of people with scleroderma have reached out to me saying that they also have celiac disease and they didn't really realize that sometimes there's a correlation there. So it's just been really cool to meet people who have similar, diet restrictions and like autoimmune diseases.
So where do you want to take Bloated Belly and Company now? Like, where do you see the future for this blog? I mean, it started off as this little seed in the ground, and now it's growing faster than I think you probably imagined.
Yeah, it has. I mean, it's still nothing like crazy big, but I don't know. It's a good question. I think about it now more than I had before. And I think I just kind of want to continue down the path that I'm going and just like really incorporating more people who have autoimmune diseases. I think there's just, again, that isolation piece when you get a diagnosis that you just feel so alone. And I think if I can at least just get that out in the community that you're not alone, that there's resources out there, I think that's really the path that I want to go down.
So my big question is, if people wanted to follow your blog and reach out to you and find out more about you, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, the best two ways are the actual website. So it's www.bloatedbellyco.com. Otherwise on Instagram, I post things daily. And so that is bloatedbelly_co. And that gives you like daily photos of different like food ideas, meal ideas. We post recipes on there. There's just a ton of information on the Instagram account itself.
And this has been another episode of Sclero What. Just want to thank Amy for coming on the show today, and we'll see you guys on the next episode.
Thanks for having me.